The 4% rule didn't save this retirement plan, that's for sure. All right, so I'm working on my book, and I just coming up with all kinds of great information I can't wait to share with you. And I've got a pretty good basis now that I just freaking love. But I always like to measure it based on the worst case scenario. And essentially the 4% rule is literally the worst case scenario, what's called a safe withdrawal rate for the United States. Bill Bengen came out in 1994, I believe. He wrote the article that talked about this in the Journal for Financial Planning. He said from 1926 to 1990 was the maximum you could take out of your portfolio adjusted for inflation and never run out of money. And he found that was 4% on the 60% stocks, 40% bond portfolio. All right, so he said, look, if you took out less than 4%, you never ran out of money. You could even take out 4% and never run out of money. But if you took out 4.5%, 5%, you could have run out of money a couple of times. And so 4% essentially is a safe withdrawal rate, i.e. the worst case scenario, using America as a proxy there. The reason I don't like the 4% rule, never mind the idea that people spend increases each and every year with inflation, no evidence of that, but it's because it uses America as a proxy here, and America is the only game in town. I think we did the number. We were the third best market in the 20th century. No one else came close. So after World War II, is America or bust, dude? You know, I mean, it's just all there is to it. So I don't like using that as our proxy when we were literally the top shelf. You see what I'm saying? So if we don't repeat that, and we're using at historical rates of return, you could be very overly optimistic. So I like to look at Japan. I think Japan is a model for a highly developed country that had just a poor market returns. And what I'm going to show you here. So I got all these datas, and we're going to show the Nikkei going back to 1950, inflation rate going back to 1960, the average growth rate in Japan going back to 1961, long bonds going back to 1989. And what we're going to do is down here is just going to look at Nikkei. You can see from 1990, basically from 1990 to 2012, the Japan economy, the markets just got crushed. You can see right there, 1990 down 38, 3, 26, up a little bit down. Look at those, just destroyed. So what I've done here is I come down here, I said, okay, if we invested in, hold on just a second, right here, Nikkei, that's the Japanese stock market, $100,000, and we took 4% a year, adjusted for inflation, here's our inflation rate, how long would our money last? And you can see we would have ran out of money in 13 years, right? Excuse me, right there. We ran out of money in 14 years, just in stocks and stocks alone, okay? Because you can see we just got destroyed so heavily on the front end. We're only left with $48,000 after year 3, $30,000 after year 6. We just got decimated and never to return. And we're only taking 4% a year adjusted for inflation, even though inflation was quite low. So I said, what if we just did 10-year bonds? So we're locking in 10-year bond. 6.9, that's a good deal because look, inflation is only 3.8. So we got twice the rate of inflation in a 10-year bond. Right here, 6.9, inflation is only 3.25. 6.9, inflation is only 1.75. 6.9, we had deflation. So if you locked in a 10-year bond, man, you were living life. You're like, dude, I'm crushing. But you can't lock in a 10-year bond forever. At some point, you got to get another 10-year bond. And then when that bond matured, it's 1.74 is the interest rate, the coupon. And yet we had mass deflation there. So you're still in the positive, right? And there you still ran out of money, though, in year 25, excuse me, in year 25. So even if you had bonds in basically a deflationary environment and you locked in good rates, you still ran out of money in year 2015, what was it right here? Year 2014. So basically 15 years in retirement. Not good, man, not good. And again, we're only taking 4% a year out adjusted for a moderate inflation. Look right here, 40, we started right here, 45.25, then went all the way down to 43.90, 43.62, 43.48. Look at that. And we still ran out of money. All right. And the reason for that is quite simple. We weren't making enough interest on the amount of money we're taking out. So we're diving into our principal more and more. So I said, what if we did a 60-40 portfolio? 40% bonds, 60% stocks. And again, I'm using two 10-year treasuries as our proxy here. So 1990 to 2000. And you can see right there, 2000 to 2010 and the interest rate. So the interest rates changed in those years. In fact, I did change them there. I said, how long would the portfolio have lasted there? 60% stocks, 40% bonds. And again, we got $100,000 and they were taking $4,000 a year, adjusting it for inflation. And so even though the Nikkei got destroyed in 1990, I think it was down 38%, with a 38.72 with the bonds. We were down 21%, so we gave us a reprieve, but not much. And then in 1991, we actually made some money. and the markets got crushed. So, I mean, the stock market got crushed. But the bonds gave us reprieve, and yet even here, we still ran out of money right there, 2008. So the bonds gave us a little bit of a reprieve relative to the stocks, but not that much. We still ran out of money at 18 years. So we had, let's see, 1990. We had this portfolio here, 1990 to 2014. So that's 24 years. We had 18 years here for the 60, 40, 60 portfolio. Hold on a second. Yeah, we had right there, 18 years for the 40, 60, 60, 40 portfolio, excuse me. Then all stocks, we had, how long do we have? We had 13 years. That's it, man. Crazy. Now, if you got a short, see, this is where it gets, these are long-term bonds. You're not going to get a long-term bond and turn them over every year for these kind of rates. But if you had, let's say these are short-term rates. Let's just say that for an example. That money never actually ran out. I mean, you're getting close to it by 2018, but that's, basically 30 years in, you still had money. These are short, these are long-term. You can't use that. You're not going to buy a 10-year bond and trade it out every year and get the same yield. It just doesn't work that way. So what happens here is if you could get short-term rates, and I don't know what the short-term rates off the top of my head, I don't think they're anywhere near 6.96. That might have worked okay, but it didn't work in the United States. I've done this exact same scenario with the United States, trading long bonds for short bonds. And remember, the yield curve. The longer you go on the yield curve, the higher the coupon's supposed to be. I mean, it's been inverted for a long, long time in the United States. At some point, that's going to change. Slowly starting to change a little bit. So we have a inverted yield curve. The higher is on the short end, the lower is on the long end. That's not typical. So anyway, either way, the 4% rule did not last in Japan. It didn't matter what you did. Didn't matter what you did. Bonds, nope. Stocks, nope. Mix of 60-40, nope. You still ran out of money well before 30 years. And that's just a fact. And could that happen here? I don't know, man. I just think be prepared. And the best way to be prepared is not have any debt. All right. God bless. Love your thoughts. Don't forget to thumbs up. And we'll see you guys.